Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you. And now for the guy that didn't go to broadcasting school in the event you couldn't tell.
Oh, don't you know, it's the Bill Arnold Show. It's Bill.
And a warm welcome to the Bill Arnold Show. Thanks for joining me today. I am looking forward to a couple of great hours. I've got Dr. Glenn Pickering coming on the line in just a minute. And then Dr. Gary Manning Jr. is with me in hour two. So that's the plan for the day. I'm liking this plan, Wyatt, and thanks for helping arrange this plan.
Yeah, well, thank you for noticing, but it does seem like it's going to be 2 great hours. I'm excited to dig into it.
Yeah, and Glenn's topic is something I've heard him say a variation of over the many, many years I've known him, which is life's most dangerous question. What do you want? There's a lot of people that try to figure out life and they don't ever ask themselves really what they want. And so it's the power of asking for what we want is the topic today. Glenn Pickering is not only a counselor, he is an author, he is a former pastor, a former engineer. He probably does it all. After this, he'll probably join the circus. Who knows what he's going to do next? Glenn, welcome.
Well, thanks very much. The circus sounds kind of good right now.
It does, doesn't it? I remember hearing this from you decades ago, and I thought, this is really an important topic, an important question. What do you want? And I know you're going to do a great job of explaining this to everyone today, so the stage is yours.
All right, thanks. I often talk with my clients, and basically I'm just asking them, what is it you really want? Kind of what's your vision? What do you want? And I often get sort of a sheepish look, and they kind of look down, and they kind of squirm a little bit, and then finally they're going to say some version of, Glenn, isn't that kind of a selfish question? Which I understand. But it's important for us to understand as Christians that thought, it's selfish to ask for what I want, is wrong for 4 reasons. It's really, really important that we do ask God for what we want for these 4 reasons. I'm just going to kind of walk us through it from a biblical perspective of why it is so important to come before God and ask for what we want. Number 1, all of our reasons for not doing so have a main theme, and I want you to listen for that theme. When people say, well, I don't really want to ask for what I want because that I would sound selfish. I don't want to look to other people like I'm some egomaniac. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to be outside my comfort zone. I don't want people to think I'm grandiose, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to notice the one thing that every one of those sentences has in common.
Which is?
They all start with the word I.
Okay.
So the truth is, people think, well, it's selfish to ask for what I want, but all of our reasons for not asking are all about ourselves.
Glenn, what if I said, well, aren't we supposed to be other-oriented, therefore it's not about me?
That is a really great question, and I promise we're going to address that one because
good.
Honestly is how people think sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's an important point. We're just going to start here. So all of my reasons for not asking God for what I want are actually selfish because it's all about, I don't want to look bad. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want people to think a certain way about me. So we think it's selfish to ask for what we want, but the truth is all the reasons for not asking are actually selfish. And they're really all just excuses, reasons why not to take action. And I think, Jesus said in John 10:10 that, he came that we might have life and have it in abundance. I mean, our command is to live a really big life. And we can come up with a million excuses not to do that. But we have to understand that there's only one reason to do it. And the reason is because that's our calling. That's what God put us on earth to do. He didn't say, Glenn, go down to earth and try not to do anything. Glenn, your mission in life is not to mess anything up.
Yeah.
That's not the mission. The mission is to have some powerful, right impact on our world that makes a difference in the lives of other people.
Hmm. When I was
Well, yeah, you go.
when I was preparing for this hour, I was reminded of Jesus talking to the man on the mat at the pool and
Right.
saying to him, "Do you want to get well?"
Yeah.
That's a pretty direct question. And of course, Bartimaeus,
Uh-huh.
what do you want me to do for you? Well, I want to see. All seems obvious, but yet he still asks and he wants
Right.
us to respond.
Absolutely. And there's a powerful reason for that, which we'll also talk about. So thanks for setting us up for
Oh,
that.
good.
That's great.
I'm doing my best.
I like it. That's good. So we have all the reasons not to ask what we want, but those are all selfish reasons because I don't want to look bad or I don't want to make a mistake. And people read the parable, in Matthew 25, the parable of the guy, who got one talent, another guy got two, another one got five, of course. And the ones who got two and five, they did something with it. So when the master came back, they were able to, give them the profits they made. And he said to each of them, well done, good and faithful servants. In other words, you did something with the talent I gave you. That's right. That's what I want. And the guy who was afraid, who got one talent, was afraid to make a mistake, afraid to do it wrong. So he buried his talent in the ground and he gives it back to the master, thinking the master is going to pat him on the head. And the master is furious. And as far as I know, this is the only place in the Gospels where Jesus tells a story that specifically says, and the master was furious,
Hmm.
that you got this talent and didn't use it for fear of ... And we
Yeah.
all have our own list of fears, which we just have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes those fears keep us from stepping outside our comfort zone and living the life that God actually has in mind for us. So we need to understand, instead of thinking, well, it'd be selfish to ask for what I want, to understand, no, God wants you to ask for what you want. Jesus says in Matthew 7, ask and it shall be given unto you. That's pretty direct. He didn't say, well, you can ask for stuff if you want to. It doesn't matter. It's okay. He said, no, ask for what you want and it shall be given unto you. That's the secret of life. That's how everything actually happens. It starts with us coming before God and asking for whatever it is that we want. And so when people say, well, that's selfish, I think, well, then apparently the Bible is telling us to be selfish because Jesus says, ask for what you want and it shall be given unto you. So we need to understand all that stuff about thinking it's selfish is just a very worldly way of thinking. Like, how can I say? Like the world thinks, and this kind of gets into the second point I want to make, so it's good. The world thinks, well, I want to do something that's good for me, and even though it's probably going to be bad for you, I don't care as long as it's good for me. That's why people think, oh, it's selfish to ask for what you want. But you've heard me talk before about how I love this fact. Every story that has Jesus in it ends the same way. He leaves. He ministers, he does an amazing thing, and then he withdraws. He goes to a quiet village, or him and the disciples go to a lonely place, or him and the disciples and the women who travel with him to take care of him go off somewhere. And oftentimes the next story after that starts with, and it was during those days. So, we're not talking about a 5-minute power nap. If
Yeah.
you just read all the stories about Jesus in it over those 3 years, those stories don't take 3 years. Now, obviously, there's some stories that didn't get passed along,
Right.
but it's just important to understand Jesus was not characterized by frantic activity. And so I grew up in a codependent family that said, well, I can either take care of me or I can take care of you, one or the other. So every minute I'm taking care of myself, I'm not taking care of you, so then that's selfish. But see, Jesus shows us a different model, a back and forth model, where he goes to be quiet, just hangs out with God, with his closest disciples and the women who take care of them, and he gets filled up with love and prayer and the care of all the people around him. Then he goes out there and gives it all away. Then he comes back to get filled up. Then he goes out there to give it all away. So, see, my codependent family taught me, well, I can either take care of me or you, one or the other. So taking care of me is selfish. But Jesus' example shows, no, I can either take care of me and you, or I can't do either one.
Hmm. I've thought of this before, which is if you are consumable, you will be consumed. And I can't think of anyone who would be more consumable in the eyes of people around Jesus than him. And yet he withdraws and goes and be alone with the Father. Because I love this model that you're talking about, Glenn. This is really helpful.
Right. So self-care, Jesus is real clear about this. It's not selfish. Self-care is what gets me ready to go care for other people. So if I'm codependent and I think, well, I should never take care of myself because that's selfish. I'm always taking care of everybody else. Well, see, I'm always running on empty.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have to ask myself the honest question, what is it exactly that I have to give to anybody else? And the answer, of course, is nothing because that well is always kind of dry.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jesus shows us that example, I can take care of me and you, or neither one. See, then it brings us back to the first point we were talking about, well, people think it's selfish to ask for what I want. But see, it's only selfish if you're only thinking it's all about you. If you understand that you are being given what you want, Jesus asked, what is it you want? Because that's the best way that you can actually serve other people, which again, we'll talk about more too. But Jesus has always shown us that model. It's not about you, not about me. It's me getting filled up so I can be helpful to you. And those two things are always going back and forth and back and forth. And last time I was on, I talked a little bit about the Great Commandment, and you commented on, I said, Jesus said, love God with your whole heart and love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, and the second is like unto it. It's like, right, because I get filled up with God's love so that I can care for my neighbors like I care for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not an either or. I do that one so that I can do the second part. They're so interrelated. Jesus said that the second one is like unto the first. They're almost inseparable, which is why, even though the Pharisees asked him for what's the greatest commandment, it seems like he's giving them two. But he said, no, those two are so linked that you really can't do one without the other one. They're all part of the pattern of things. So when people say, well, Grant, I really don't want to be selfish, I think, see, you think you're getting filled up, you getting a chance to do what you want, that you love doing, is all about you. But we need to understand, God fills us up so that we can be loving and caring to all the people in our life. It's not just about us. I don't get filled up just for me. In fact, what would be the point of that?
Yeah. So, Glenn, if I'm in the water and I'm splashing around because I think I'm going down, and you're on the land and you throw me a life preserver, do I yell at you saying, this is not a fair advantage, you're on land? The very reason I can get a life preserver is because you are on land.
Right, Goofy. If we're both drowning, nobody can help anybody, right?
Yeah. So the rhythm
Right.
of ministry, rest, and returning, you can do both, can't you? And that's the whole point of what we're talking, right?
It's not only that they can do both, we're actually commanded to do both.
okay.
There's a reason why they said, the commandment about, and keep the Sabbath and have it be holy. Like it's literally written into the commandments that we're supposed to take some time to slow down, be quiet, and rest up.
And that's not an easy thing to do. Most people I know have one speed, and it's full on. That's the way they go.
Right. And the problem with that style is then they're never actually full on because they're always kind of half empty. So what is full on for them is actually probably only about half speed. If they would slow down and get filled up, their full on would actually be way more powerful.
Yeah. This sounds easier said than done.
I promise that's true.
Yeah. So we'll keep working away on that topic, and we'll do some more in depth. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. We're going to take a break, but if you have a question or comment you'd like to jump in on this conversation, let me know what it is. The text line is open, 877-933-2484, and Wyatt will have us back in 90 seconds. You might be the kind of person that goes to Paris and still listens to Faith Radio on the app. And I'm thinking of a particular couple from northern Minnesota. Or you might be more like the person that just goes into the next room in your apartment and listens. Well, the good news is using the app is just as easy in both places. Downloading the free app is crazy easy. Just text the word app to 877-933-2484 and then click the link. And if you happen to be in Paris, there is a coffee shop, but you should see the prices of biscotti. They have gone through the roof. I recommend avoiding it. I'm back with Dr. Glenn Pickering. Today's topic is the power of asking for what we want. God commands us to do that. And I'm appreciative, Glenn, that we're going to do a deep dive on this because I think our first segment was really a great laying the foundation for this discussion.
Oh, cool. Thank you. And I'd like to just sort of finish that foundation by saying this. We're talking about how important it is to rest, about how Jesus would do something great and then take a break, do something great, and about how we're commanded to take the Sabbath. And I think you were saying at the end that we get so busy and think, well, I have to do this and I have to do that, that we don't necessarily stop and take good care of ourselves. And I think often about this old story about Martin Luther. Every morning when he got up, he would have an hour of prayer before he started his day. And one morning, his aide came to him, woke him up and said, Martin, the bishop's coming today. The prince wants to talk to you. A bunch of big things have to get decided today. This is a really big day. I don't think you have time for an hour of prayer. And Martin Luther said, you're right. This will take 2 hours.
I love that.
Because I just think, right, when people say, well, I'm too busy to stop or pray or take care of myself or even think what I want, much less ask for it, I think, see, you're too busy not to. We get that so backwards. See, I think so often when we get busy, the first thing that goes, the first thing we throw overboard is exactly the sorts of things that would fill us up enough that we could actually do all the things that we're busy with.
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody says, Glenn, I'm too busy to take time to pray, I say to them, if I have a good enough relationship with them, you're too busy not to. You don't get it. To the degree that the stuff you're doing actually matters, and it's not just trivial stuff just to keep yourself busy,
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that what you're doing matters in some way to at least one other person, then you need to bring your best self to that. Not your frazzled self, not your overwhelmed self, not your frustrated, bitter self, not the part of you that thinks, why isn't anybody ever take care of me? I'm always so busy taking care of everybody else. That person's not going to be helpful to anybody. And so when God puts somebody on your path on that day that you are being called to be helpful to, you either won't even see them or they'll get sort of a dismissive answer from you because you're so busy. I just think we don't get it. God puts people in front of us every day that need our focus and our attention and our care. And if I'm busy, I not only don't help them, I don't even see them.
Mm. So when you're giving clients a dose of this vitamin truth you're talking about, this sounds like it's necessary and true, but difficult.
It is difficult.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
Our little ego likes to think, I am what I'm worth. Whatever I produce, that's what makes me important.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why Jesus said that the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money. Money is just a thing. It's just a primitive way of doing accounting. The love of money. If I think money is what gives me meaning, if money is what makes me important, if money shows that I matter, well, that's messed up. God said, Glenn, you matter. You are precious to me. That's done.
Mm-hmm.
But my ego thinks, no, I have to earn that. I have to prove that I'm better than other people. I have to earn that. And it's like, God's like, no, you don't get it, honey. It's a gift. And so all of our busy running around is really just an ego, very human, very worldly way of trying to make ourselves important. Instead of understanding, no, we are a creature of God. We are by definition important. There's a reason we're on this earth.
Mm-hmm. Glenn, what about a sense of just having a healthy competitive spirit?
Here's the problem with competitive, and I hear people talk about that some, but see, God didn't put me on earth to be better at something than somebody else. He put me on this earth to keep getting better every day at the things I'm called to do, which is why right at the end of John, it's the final appearance that Jesus makes post-transformation. He's making Peter the leader of the church. And 3 times he basically says, will you feed my sheep? And, you do love me. Will you feed my sheep? And Peter's like, I will, I will, blah, blah, blah. And then John walks by and Peter says, what about him? And Jesus says, what is that to you? To this guy who just made the head of the church. Hey, what about John? That's not your problem. Why are you asking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, see, as soon as we start comparing ourselves to somebody else or wondering how somebody else is doing, we are literally missing the mark. So if I get competitive, see, I'm always thinking, how can I be better than other people? But if I'm competitive, not in that ego way where I'm trying to be better than other people and improve my worth, but really I'm trying to be better, like in that sanctification way. Like every day I try to be more and more and more the person that God created me to be from the beginning. Well, that's great. But I'm not called to compete with other people. I'm called to compete with myself.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Otherwise, when I say to God, well, what about Bill? And God's going to say, what's that to you, Glenn?
I remember in the movie Chariots of Fire, Eric Little Liddell or Little, I can't think of his name right now, but he said, God made me fast, so when I run, I feel God's pleasure.
Right. Right. And so my job is to get as good as I can at running fast because that is what I was put on earth to do. Good
That's
for
what
you.
God gave me. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
so we just have to ask ourselves, okay, what are our gifts? And am I using them in a way that really is bringing about the kingdom?
Mm-hmm.
And that should be our question every day. What is everybody else doing? Yeah, see, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Glenn, what
If
about the million-dollar question of identifying what your gifts are?
Thank you very much. It's almost shocking how much we don't know. In a way, because we take our gifts for granted. And here's what I mean. I think about this all the time. Years ago, I was helping lead a retreat from my church. And I was doing that, a bunch of church leaders, like probably 17 or 18 people, along with my associate pastor. And each person was sort of talking about what their vision is for their life and how that would match up with maybe the vision of the church going forward. And I'd listen to each person and they would talk for 2-3 minutes and I'd kind of summarize what they said. And then we'd move on. And my associate pastor afterwards, I'm standing there drinking coffee with him, and he said, Glenn, you are so good at that. I'm like, drinking coffee? So what? And he said, you can listen to somebody for 2 or 3 minutes and summarize what they said better than they said it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, who can't do that?
Well, trust me, Glenn, that is one of your gifts.
See, I know, but I get that now. But honestly, because the things that are gifts for us are things we are naturally good at from the very beginning. So we just assume because it comes so easily to us
Yeah.
that it's not a gift. It's just something anybody can do. It's only when we find out that that's not true. And I watched my associate pastor try and do something similar in the second half of the day. And I thought, man, either you were really bad at that or you're right. I'm really good at that because he was so bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just didn't have that natural gift. So I think it is actually helpful in this way. I'm kind of going with this to ask other people what our gifts are because they can actually see them more clearly than we can. Because we tend to sort of take them for granted.
Is that a dangerous question?
Uh-huh.
To say, hey, Wyatt, what do you think my gifts are? I'm not asking you on live radio to answer.
Yeah, don't worry. I won't.
No, okay,
It's all
good.
good.
No, but
Oh,
isn't that kind of
sure.
a dangerous question?
Yeah. Well, it is, but here's the cool thing. I've yet to see a time when people didn't answer that in a serious sort of way. But now here's our job. If I ask somebody what my gifts are, and they seriously tell me 2 or 3 things I'm really good at, I don't get to argue with them.
Good point. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, not really. Oh, shucks, gosh, don't know that. If I'm asking somebody what's my gift, and they really give it some serious peripheral thought, and they list 2 or 3 things that they think are really specifically good, that I'm specifically good at,
Mm-hmm.
I need to take that in. And I need to say, okay, thanks for being so clear. Instead
like
of,
that.
oh, shucks, gosh, darn, you shouldn't say that. I'm not really that good. We do that false modesty thing right after we ask somebody what our gifts are.
Mm-hmm.
Golly. And then the other person walks away thinking, what was that? So it's helpful to find out from people what they think our gifts are because, like, for example, when I was a kid, I could make lists of what I was going to do with my day and cross things off as I went through my day. And I could do that when I was 5. So when other people say, Glenn, you're so organized, like you have lists in your head and you cross things off as you go, I think, yeah. But really, I'm thinking, don't you? But I understand now. Really, really, there are way, way, way more people in the world who don't do that than there are people like me.
Mm-hmm.
But again, because it's just so natural to me, so I never had to work at it. So I didn't understand that other people have to work at that.
Yeah. Glenn, do you ever get people that say, hey, Glenn, you seem to be pretty organized and you're able to structure your day and check stuff off your list. Can you coach me on how to better do that? Do you get that once in a while?
I do, but here's what I've come to understand, and I know you've heard me say this before. Um, there's a reason why people. So here's what. So God didn't put it on me on earth to teach people how to be organized. He
I get
put
it.
me on earth to teach people how to do relationships. The one thing for which I had absolutely no natural skill, and I mean none. I'm autistic, and I was raised in an autistic family. I spent my years 3, 4, and 5 alone. Like my brother and sister would go off to school, my mom would just be washing clothes and cleaning the house, and I'd be all by myself for hours and hours at a time. I went to school, 30 other kids in kindergarten screaming and running around and throwing things. And I'm like, I look in shock. I literally had no idea what to do with any of them. Oh my gosh. So, but see now, because I had to actually learn how to do that, like step by step, made tons of mistakes, finally kind of figured out how to do that. Yeah, I can teach people how to do relationships because I had to actually learn it. That's why I said to you a long time ago, if somebody asked a natural athlete, hey, can you teach me how to do that? And they're dead honest. Their answer is no, because they don't know how to do it because they just always could. But if you take somebody with just a little bit of athletic talent who went to camps and learned things and read the books and practiced and kept track of things that he was learning in his mind, then somebody else later said, can you teach me how to play that sport? Yep, I can. Not because I'm naturally gifted at it, but because I wasn't. So we can use our gifts on behalf of others. But the things we're going to teach them are probably not the things we're gifted at, which is
Yeah, good
interesting.
point. Good point.
Mhm.
That's really,
So,
really interesting. Okay. Continue, Glenn. I'm sorry.
well, I know it's sort of close to break time, so we can sort of finish off here just for a second if you want. Um, so it just comes to this. So it's not selfish to ask for what we want. And so it's not selfish to use our gifts because we're called to use them, which means it's not selfish or egocentric to ask people, what are my gifts? People think, that's a weird self-centered question to ask. I think that's only true if you think the gifts are only for you,
Oh, interesting.
right?
That's
If
an
you,
excellent point. Gifts are not
yeah,
just
but
for
if
you,
you,
they're for others.
yeah, but if you get that your gifts are for helping other people, then you need to know what they are. And then so
Hmm.
asking your friends, hey, what do you see as my gifts is not a selfish or self-centered question. It's actually the question of somebody who's seriously interested in doing ministry.
I like that. It's yes and. I'm seeing this as here's my
Uh,
gifts because I will be able to use those gifts to
right.
bless others or to expand, help being part of God's kingdom expansion.
Exactly. And
Mm.
so when I come before God and ask God to help me in my use of those gifts, well, obviously that's not a selfish thought.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to think about this one over the break. This is good
Right?
stuff. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. We're talking about um, the power of asking for what we want. So if you have a question or comment, anything is welcome. The text line is open, 877-933-2484. We'll be right back.
Bill needs a minute. He needs a minute. Bill needs a minute. He'll be right back. Bill needs a minute. He just needs a minute. Bill needs a minute. He'll be right back. Bill took a minute, and now he's back.
Dr. Glenn Pickering is telling me that thinking that it's selfish to ask for what you want is wrong, and he's given us some great reasons. So we're talking today about the power of asking for what we want. Glenn, let's move on to your third point. You've got 4 reasons, and I want to move on to number 3.
Great. The third reason why it's important to ask for what we want is this. God is, and why it's not selfish to ask for what we want, that should be more clear. God is always saying these two things to me, which sound contradictory, but they're not. God is always saying to me, Glenn, you're precious to me, and you're not special. I want to take that in for a second. You're precious to me, but you're not special.
I think I get
So
where
he
you're
has a
going.
so he has a plan for me for sure. A plan that's specifically my plan, that what I'm supposed to do with my life when I'm here. But that plan is never just going to be for me. See, because I am precious to God, but here's the thing, so is every other child God ever created. So I am precious, but I'm not special because every child of God is precious to him. So God is not going to put a vision on my heart that's good for me, but bad for one of his other children who he loves just as much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an egotistical, very human, very worldly thought to think God could want something from me, but I don't know if I should do it because it's going to be bad for other people. I think that is literally not even possible
Mm-hmm.
because that would mean that you're precious and special, but you're not. Every one of God's children is precious to him, like in a powerful, incredible, I want so much good for you kind of way. So, because I'm precious but not special, because God loves all of his children equally, so he's never going to put something on my heart in any way that I'd come to him ask for help with that's not going to be good for me and for the rest of his children. I love this parable of the mustard seed, Matthew 13. Jesus talks about this little, he's given all kinds of parables, which I want to talk about a couple other ones too, but we'll specifically focus on those things. Series of parables, but he talks about the mustard seed. Starts off as this little teeny seed, the tiniest of all seeds, but grows in this huge big bush. And most people, if they're preaching on that, they stop quoting the story there and talk about how, yeah, if God puts something on your heart, it's probably not going to start off real big. It's probably going to start small and then gradually grow into something over time. And that's a good sermon. There's nothing wrong with that sermon. It's all true. But that's not where the story ends. Jesus said it grows in the big bush so that even the birds of the field can make nests in its branches. See, if we do the thing we're called to do, yeah, it might turn out to be something big, and that will help all the people around me in some really amazing sorts of ways. If you look at the tree in my front yard, there are birds perching there, and squirrels will run around in there, and there are animals will make nests up on those branches, and there's little animals on the ground eating the leaves, and there are little bugs that are hiding in that bush underneath it. I mean, it's like those trees are like a blessing to every creature in that little woods behind my house.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what I mean? So to think, oh, God could put something in my heart, but it's good for me, but somehow only for me, because I'm not interrelated to all the other people in my life. Well, that's a crazy thought.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing the thing I'm called on earth to do, it's the most powerful way that I could possibly bless other people. So even if somebody comes to me and says, well, I don't want it to be about myself. I want to make a difference in the lives of other people. And I think, great, what do you want? Oh, no, God, I don't want to talk about me. I really want to find a way to bless other people. Do the thing you're called to do. You will be an immense blessing to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do I know what I'm called to do? And then we're back to that question we asked a second ago, what are your gifts? Now, here's the cool thing. Because we talked about two things a few minutes ago that might be confusing to people. So we need to know what our gifts are, but we might use those in a field that are not a natural gift of ours. And here's what I mean. I would believe I was born to be a teacher. I think like a teacher. I talk like a teacher. I do seminars like a teacher. I think in my sleep like a teacher would think. Like, how do I explain that to somebody else? So that's a natural gift of mine, that ability to summarize and figure out how I could say that to somebody else. And I don't do that, though, on a topic I'm naturally good at. I do it on a topic of relationships, which I had to learn about. So I'm using my natural gifts in an arena that's not my natural gift, if that makes any sense. And that will always be true. If I talk to somebody and they say, Glenn, I really think I'm supposed to work with young people, but I've never had kids. Great. I bet you're right. Because you probably have a natural ability to work with kids, but you're probably going to have to learn some things about how to actually help them so that you know how to be helpful to them. And if you get to use this natural skill you have of teaching, and you do it with kids who you've never had practice with, so you have to learn everything there is to learn about kids so you know how to teach it to other people, that's probably perfect.
All right. What about if I'm listening to you talk today and
Yeah.
I'm in agreement that I need to use my gifts, but
Uh-huh.
Glenn, my tank is empty and I feel like I've been kicked to the curb. and I might need some kind of reset.
Yeah, you might. Um, which is part of why, we talked about how Jesus gets filled up with God's love, the love of his brothers, the girls and the women who travel with him, taking care of them, so that he can go out and help other people. So if I'm running on empty, I could push myself, or I could judge myself, or I could feel bad for thinking that, or I could just think, I'm running on empty, and just let that be true and think, okay, okay. So if there's no condemnation in Christ, which there's not, and I notice I'm running on empty, it's not my job to judge that or feel bad about it. It's just my job to ask, okay, what do I need to do so I stay more filled up so I'm not running around on empty? That's a really great question. Not how do I push through this? How do I see this as a lesson that God's teaching me? And if God is teaching me, I tend to be doing, and I'm not doing the things that help me get filled up. I'm not doing what Jesus did, where I get filled up and then I go give it away, and then I can get back, get filled up again. And because I must not be doing that because I'm out of energy. I say,
Hmm.
okay, just again, look at your life and think, okay, what are the things I'm doing that I wouldn't actually have to do, that even aren't necessarily in my gifted field? And if I drop some of those things so I have some more time to myself, what would I do with that time that filled me back up?
Hmm.
Because that's unique to each person, of course.
So if I understand what my gifts are and I went out and used them to serve someone else, that should energize me, right?
It will make you feel fulfilled
Yeah, there you
and
go.
probably tired.
Okay. Tired in a good
Because if
way.
I use my gifts in a way that's really fun for me, it will be exciting. And I like if I'm teaching and I see people's eyes light up because they're getting it, it makes me so happy.
Hmm.
And I'm literally putting all my energy out there while I'm doing this. And so I'm going to come home and just sort of lay down in my bed and be quiet.
Right.
Ask my wife. She's seen me after a seminar.
Yeah,
So, so yeah, I will be happy and I probably will be tired.
sure. But you should have a certain level of energy for what God has gifted you to do when you're out doing it.
Oh yeah, when you're doing it, if I'm
Yes.
doing my gifting, there's an energy that flows through me
That-
that I know is not mine.
okay, that was my point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, for sure. Yes, yes, yes.
And if you feel like your tank is empty and maybe a question you could ask somebody is what would you consider one of your gifts? And then when was the last time you felt like you used that gift?
Right,
And if they
right.
said,
Either
well,
way,
2 days ago
right.
I did.
Wait, what'd you do?
Exactly. That might be a good conversation starter.
Right. And what do you do when you take time off that gives you the energy to go back out there and do it again?
Hmm. Yeah, there's a fine line, isn't there? I mean, you need to
Yeah.
serve others, edify the body in every
Uh-huh.
way you can, but also take this time that to refresh and to get restored and have the energy to go back out there.
Yeah, and Jesus role models that over and over and over
Yeah,
again, all through the gospel. I mean, you literally can't read a gospel for very long before he stops what he's doing and goes off somewhere.
and that's encouraging when I read that. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking,
And
yeah, he's doing
right,
what I should do, and I'm not doing it as well as he is.
right. I had a client one time who was addicted to work. He called himself a workaholic. And he said, Glenn, it's the only addiction I know that people pat you on the back for having. And I kind of understood his point. When people say, I'm so busy, we think, oh, okay, well, you must be great or you must be really doing good. And it's like, but see, if somebody said, I'm so busy all the time, what I think now is, oh, you don't take time for yourself. You don't
Yeah.
take time to prayer. You don't take time to ask God to help you with the things that you're doing that you're busy with. So you always have to do it under your own power instead of like you just said a second ago, when you're doing your natural gift, God's love just flows through you. You get powered up from the inside out.
Yeah, it's an answer a lot of people give because it's an easy, convenient answer to how
Right.
have you
Yeah.
been? And if you say busy, that probably probably is enough to get them to not ask any more follow-up questions.
Right. And my thought is, oh, I honestly think to myself, now, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Not judgmental. No, again, no condemnation, but just like, oh, oh. Okay, because see, if I don't stop and take time to get filled up with God's love and patience and care, then I am that guy like you were just talking about a second ago. Is I was running around empty,
Hmm.
and that's a really not fun, not fulfilling life.
Yeah. All right, Glenn, I'm going to take a little breather here, and then let's come back and talk about the fourth reason regarding the power of asking for what we want. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. We'll be right back. Hi, podcast listener. You know, I'm Bill Arnold, and my theme song says, "What's for dinner?" And like when I'm grilling, I'm paying really close attention. And I know that ideal second to get the food off the grill. Like all good and ideal timings in life, right now would be an ideal time to be a cheerful giver to Faith Radio. Give now to support this podcast so that more people in more places might come to saving faith in Jesus and grow in their relationship and become a fully devoted follower. Click the link in the show notes or give now at myfaithradio.com. So, Wyatt, just a quick question. I know there's something going on next week, and remind me what's going on next week.
Well, I'm glad you asked because it's important that you know when you get here next week what's happening. And it's important for the listener to know as well. It's our spring fundraiser here at Faith Radio. We are listener supported, so thank you for your support and believing in what God is doing through this ministry. If you want to give, you can actually give now. Go to myfaithradio.com or, be on the lookout for next week for our spring fundraiser. Going to be a good time. And it's always fun, Bill, to watch the gifts come in, see the generosity, and just, again, how God, the Holy Spirit, is moving through Faith Radio.
I'm so glad I asked.
Yeah, that could have been awkward.
Well, totally, because why am I always the last to know?
That's maybe the larger question here. Maybe we need to figure that out. But
I don't want to dig into that right now.
All right.
Because Glenn's got some more material on the power of asking for what we want. Now, he's given us 4 reasons, and this is the 4th. Glenn, let's jump in.
Right. Here's why we have to ask. We can't even receive God's gifts if we don't ask, which sounds funny. But I love the story of Bartimaeus. So Jesus and a whole bunch of his disciples are walking. One story says to Jericho. One story says leaving Jericho. But anyway, in or out of Jericho. And they pass blind Bartimaeus, a blind beggar sitting by the side of the road, begging. And Bartimaeus finds out that it's Jesus walking past. And so he's yelling out, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." And he keeps yelling, and people tell him to shut up, and he keeps yelling. Finally, Jesus stops, calls him over. Okay. So here's Bartimaeus, the blind beggar, standing in front of Jesus. And Jesus says, "What do you want?" I laugh every time I read that story. Let's see. As you know, I'm a blind beggar. What do I want? But Bartimaeus says, "I wish to receive my sight." And Jesus said, "Done."
Mm-hmm.
And we need to understand that's what actually happens. We ask so that we can receive. God doesn't say, "I'm not going to give you nothing until you ask because I'm in charge here." It's like, no. Guys, until we ask, our hearts are not open to receiving the gifts. It's the asking that opens us to receive the blessings that God keeps trying to give to us. So we don't ask to please him. We ask to open our own heart up to receive what it is that he has to give to us, whatever that might be. That's why it says, "Ask, and you shall receive," because it's the asking that opens our heart to receiving.
Okay, that's a great point.
One day years ago, I was having a really amazing day, and I took some time out in the middle of my day, like I always do, just to pray. And there's a pond where I used to work back then. So I was sitting by the pond, just feeling so blessed. And I said, "God, thank you for all these blessings, but why me?" And I heard God say clearly to me, "Because that's what I do." And I thought, yeah. So many of my clients say, "Well, you know how it is, Glenn. Some people get everything they want." Subtext, unlike me, who doesn't get anything. And I realize this now. See, we're all outside in this raining down blessings. And those of us who are asking are out there with our hands cupped together, receiving the blessings. Those people who aren't going to ask are out there with their arms crossed and their hands under their armpits, thinking, "I'm not getting any blessings." And I think, right. See, the only difference between the people who receive the blessings, the people who don't, are the people who receive the blessings ask for what they want. So if there's anything in your life, and the book of James said the same thing. If there's anything that you want that you're not getting, that just means you're not asking for it. Again, not in a judgmental way, just in a helpful piece of feedback. They have to start asking for the things that you actually want. And so we need to understand then that in context that so the sentence asking shall be given unto you is actually a command. And here's what I mean. If I don't ask, who am I think is going to get it from me? See, then my ego is in charge. And then at that point, see, I got the wrong guy on the throne.
True.
Right? Asking is an acknowledgement of God's leadership and will. So I ask not in selfishness, like some people so mistakenly understand, but I ask because it's selfish not to, because self-care is a part of being able to help other people. Because the things I ask for will never just bless me, they also bless other people. And because until I ask, nothing actually happens. We need to understand that. Now, final thought. Even when we understand all of that, how important it is to ask, there's still this one last place where I see so many people get messed up. Sometimes I say to people, well, what's kind of your vision? They say, well, I know what I want, but I don't know how to get it. And I think, see, that's where we get messed up. We're supposed to come to God and ask for what we want, not how. God doesn't ask, Glenn, how are you going to get that? Because I can't. God just said, Glenn, tell me what you want, subtext, and I will start making that possible for you. When we start asking for what we want, so our hearts are open, we start seeing all the doors that God's been trying to open for us. And it's just our job to walk through those doors and say, thank you. Now, sometimes when I ask what I want, a number of doors open, and I can sit in the corner and ask myself, gosh, which door am I supposed to go through? But here's what I know. If I say, yeah, I'm really looking for somebody to do blah, blah, blah for me, and suddenly 3 or 4 different names come to me, my job is not to wonder out loud which one I'm supposed to pick. My job is to talk to each of those 4 people long enough to figure out, so to let God kind of guide me to know which one's actually the right one. So when the Bible says, we're supposed to wait upon the Lord. And yeah, but that doesn't mean we're sitting in a corner twiddling our thumbs waiting for God to do everything. It means that God's going to open doors, and I have to take a step through those doors so God can show me which is the right one. Because that will happen all the time.
Glenn, I was even imagining asking God for something and him saying, I'm so glad you asked. I've had something in the works for a long time.
Exactly. When people say, well, sometimes God's answer is no, the answer is never no. The answer is always yes. Paul talks about that over and over again. The answer is always yes.
I don't know if I understand that.
Well, Paul said Jesus always fulfills his promises. If the answer is always yes. And so now if I ask God for what I want, God's saying, okay, great, you're right. I've got a lot of blessings. I've been waiting to give them to you. Now, that answer might look a little different than what I thought it was going to look like. In fact, it's very likely that that's true.
Okay.
Because God can see, I can see the little teeny tiny, 10 feet in front of me, and God can see, 1 billion miles out. So he can see, yes, and Glenn, in order for you to get this thing you want, there are probably 3 steps that have to happen. So it goes not just okay, but really great. So here's your first step. And I think, I want $1 million and you told me to open a savings account? Yeah, Glenn. So silly example, but I just think God answer is always yes. But we have to have our eyes open, walk through each of those doors that are open to find out which one of those it actually is, because the yes is actually going to look different than we think it does. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And always because it's actually a way better version of what we could have imagined.
So I'm just trying to piece this together a little bit, Glenn. I think I'm a little confused. So If God is going to answer a prayer according to his will, it may look like a no to us, but it's a yes to him?
Well, it's not so much that it's a no, although it can look like that to us. For example, let me think carefully.
I only have a minute left, just so I need to put the brakes on a little.
Let's say I need somebody to help me with my website. And the next day I bump into the guy who's really good at electronics, but he's not really good at doing websites. And I go, oh, crap. But if I hang with him long enough and start asking him questions, he's going to think, oh, I know 3 people who do that. I'm going to give you their names. It's now my job to call those 3 people. And it's possible that one of those 3 people are the right people. It's also possible that one of them isn't the right person, but says, hey, I know a guy who does exactly what you're looking for. You should call him. Okay.
Okay.
I just need to understand. There might be a series of steps that happen on the way to yes, and that's okay.
Yeah. Interesting hour. Glenn, thank you once again for joining the program. I hope you have a great rest of the night, and we'll do it again. All right. That's all the time for now. Go to drglenpickering.com to learn more about Glenn and his services. After a short break, we're going to have Dr. Gary Manning Jr. join us. We're going to focus on one verse in the book of John. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.
What if the deepest wounds in your story could lead you closer to God?
I just had this strong sense that this was the beginning of a new life for our family, a new creation story.
What if the fear that holds you back is the very thing Jesus wants to heal?
Where did you learn that fear? Because you did not learn it from God.
My name is Susie Larson, and on my podcast, Susie Larson Live, every weekday we open the mic for honest conversations about faith, healing, health, and identity in Christ.
With your DNA, you are a victim. With my DNA, you are more than a conqueror.
Whether it's trauma, temptation, or the lie that says you'll never be free.
I'm prone to go to slavery, to go back to laws, but what we really want is freedom.
We talk about grief and grit, mental health and miracles, healing and holy expectancy, because you were made for more, not just to survive, but to live deeply, love bravely, and walk boldly with Jesus. Susie Larson Live, wherever you get your podcasts, just search Susie Larson Live.